We're live.
Yahoo! Woo! Hi, everybody out there.
All right. Kia ora, welcome to our live. Alice Shopland is the founder and CEO of Angel Food, New Zealand's leading plant-based cheese producer. Angel Food are currently equity crowdfunding with us with 11 days to go. Welcome, Alice. How are you?
Thank you.
Where are you beaming into us from today?
Well, I'm in the foyer of the Auckland City Art Gallery, just because I can and because I had a meeting here earlier this morning.
Amazing.
I love that you had a meeting there. Yeah.
Great place to be beaming in from.
Very sophisticated.
And we also have our Pledge to Be co-founder Anna with us, coming in from, it's Kapiti Coast, Anna?
Up the Kapiti Coast. And as I showed everyone before, I am sitting here and my baby is currently swinging on a swing.
She's cruising. Happy baby.
Yeah.
That's what we like. All right. And I am Charlotte. I'm projects and marketing lead for Pledge Me, and I'm beaming into you from sunny Takaka, Golden Bay today. So on our live, please feel free to ask any questions or comment anytime and give us some hearts and some thumbs ups. And we love anything from you. We will really appreciate. Helps us know that you're there. So we're going to jump into some questions today. First of all, Alice, can you introduce us to Angel Food?
Yeah, kia ora. Angel Food's one of my favourite topics of conversation, so that is no problem. We make plant-based cheese alternatives. I established the business back in 2006, and back then we were importing products. I say we, but it was me working by myself for a very long time. And then in 2014, we launched New Zealand's first commercially made vegan cheese. And that's what we do now, where this is what our products look like. You might have seen them in the Countdown supermarkets, New World, Pack and Saves, supply food service through direct to cafes, etc., but also through food service suppliers like Bid Food and Service Foods and Davis.
Amazing. And it's grown and grown, hasn't it? How big is it today, Alice, Angel Food?
It has grown. We currently make more than 130 tons of plant-based cheese a year, which I wish I could visualize what that looks like. It feels like it'd be a warehouse full, but it's probably not quite that. But yeah, it's a decent amount of plant-based cheese. Really, we're just getting started because we want to significantly increase our volumes. Yeah.
Amazing. So how many retailers does that mean that you stock?
Hi, Josh. We're currently in more than 350 retail outlets throughout New Zealand, including some tiny towns that you would not really expect to stock dairy-free cheese. But we're also in an estimated 1,000 cafes, hotels, all the food service outlets.
Wow.
Also, our cheese goes into some of the vegan pies that are available at petrol stations. And that's a lot of outlets as well.
I didn't know that. That is so cool. And I've got a vegetarian husband, and I need to start looking out for your vegan pies whenever we're road tripping around.
My favourite is at the Z stations, the mushroom pie. If you like mushrooms, this is great. It's chock-a-block with mushrooms and a layer of our cheese just under the pastry. Really good.
Oh, so good to know that. And I wanted to get on now to the subject of some of the amazing feedback that you've been getting lately, which is it's a pretty cool thing to be going into a crowdfunding campaign with some really great feedback from the people who are loving your products out there. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, I guess my favorite feedback is from people who say things like, you make it easy for me to stay plant-based, or you make my plant-based meals an easier option because I can just switch instead of reaching dairy cheese, they reach for the plant-based cheese. And, that touches my heart, because that is exactly why I set up the business, to make plant-based choices easier. So that's a sort of direct from the consumer feedback. We were at the Fine Food Show last week, which is a trade-only food service focused show, and we had people from 2 food technologists from a big dairy company come by the stand and try our new feta and sour cream, and just the look on their faces as they tasted it, and they said, "How did you do that without dairy products?" That was a beautiful moment.
Sounds like a very validating moment.
Oh,
Can
so
I
good.
ask,
Yes.
Alice, how did this come about? Like, how did you do all the science needed to get to a point where people working for a dairy company are like, how does this taste like dairy?
Well, it's been a long time. We've been doing this since 2014, developing our own products. I have to give a significant amount of credit to our technical manager, Justin Ma, who does our product development. And he has scienced the heck out of it. It's a very complex, nowadays, because it is becoming a significant market, there are ingredient suppliers who supply specialized starches and gums and flavors for dairy cheese analogues. So it's not as hard as it used to be, but you can't just get those ingredients and make a plant-based cheese. It is a very fine balance, and a lot of trial and error, and a lot of figuring out the interactions between different cheeses, because we're trying to make something, the dairy products that we're all familiar with have evolved because of the actual nature of dairy. So we are trying to make something that resemble those dairy products without the dairy. It is a really difficult thing to do.
Wow, it is. Hey, anyone who's watching, thank you for your comments. We love hearing from you, so please feel free to chime in any time. Now, the next question I wanted to ask you was, and you've sort of covered it a little bit, Alice, but why do people eat your plant-based cheeses? Can you go into a little bit more detail about that?
Yeah, sure. So when we started, our audience was vegans, and there weren't many of those back then, and to a certain extent vegetarians, but also the other big market for us was people with a dairy allergy or intolerance, and that is actually a surprising number of people, although I think until recently a lot of people may not have realised they had a lactose or casein allergy or intolerance, because it's just been so ingrained in us, especially in New Zealand, that you need to eat dairy products to be healthy, and dairy is seen as a sort of benign substance that couldn't possibly do anybody any harm. So increasingly there's been a real shift. People are now realizing, oh, maybe that's why I have stomach issues or eczema, and a lot of people are trying to go dairy free and finding that it really does help with some of those health issues. So that's so vegans, vegetarians, and people intolerance or allergy to dairy. Increasingly, we've got the flexitarian audience. So those are people who are not wanting to commit to a vegetarian or vegan diet, but they're consciously reducing their intake of animal products. So some of them might be plant-based, 6 days a week, or 2 meals a day, or everybody's got their own method, and some just obviously make it up as they go along. But they are the main thing is that they are cutting down on the intake of animal products. So they're a huge group of people. Like in New Zealand, it's probably about a third of New Zealanders are cutting down on animal products. Big group of people, but they are very demanding, because when they're at the
Mm.
supermarket, they can reach for the block of dairy cheese or they can reach for our cheese. Each time they are making that decision. So we have to be really good to compete with those products because, if someone's got dairy is making someone feel ill and they discover our cheeses, then they will just keep buying our cheeses and they're not comparing it week by week. But flexitarians, they are comparing on a very regular basis, which is great because it's meant we've had to up our game. And our sour cream and feta, which I keep referring to because I think they're our newest products, but they're also they're very, very close to dairy. And they're meeting that flexitarian benchmark.
Wow. I keep hearing about this in the media. Yeah, people wanting to do that, just reduce their meat consumption. Interesting hearing how it impacts on you. Yeah. And
yes, and sorry, we're sort of only just starting to tap into the flexitarian market because I think flexitarians are more likely to be conscious of reducing their meat intake. And they haven't necessarily, and they might be drinking oat milk most of the time in their coffee instead of having cow's milk. But there's not so much knowledge about the impact of cheese, which when you think about it, cheese is concentrated cow's milk. It takes 10 litres of cow's milk to make 1 kilo of cheese, which so the amount of milk that goes into your dairy cheese is much greater than the amount you're having in your coffee. So I think everybody should give plant-based cheese a go.
I'd like to let you know, Alice, that I have Angel Food cheese every week on my Hell's Pizza.
Excellent.
We do order pizza with dairy cheese as well, but there's one vegan pizza every week. So
excellent. Yay.
Yay. Hey, something else I wanted to let people know about, Alice, in case they don't know, is that you've already had 2 successful equity campaigns with us, haven't you? Can you talk a little bit about what you achieved from those?
Growth. Yeah. Each you can look at our past numbers and just see there's a real jump in our turnover after each. So we did 2015 and 2019. So each time that led to us being able to launch new products, do more marketing, and those they really enabled us to take advantage of the growth potential that was out there at that time. And that's exactly what we're hoping to achieve with this round. In particular, we're aiming to get into Australia. We obviously we love Aotearoa. We're proud to be from here, but Aotearoa is tiny, and we've tasted the options that are available in Australia, and we sort of rather smugly think that Australia needs us. We're confident there's a place for us in the Australian market, and which will lead to significant growth for us and enable us to get economies of scale, which even though we've grown significantly, it's still pretty hard going because we are still a relatively small business.
Amazing. So what will be the difference for you stepping into that Australian market? How big is it? Do you have any figures about the size?
Well, the population is 5 times the size, and they have better concentrate population than we do in New Zealand. New Zealand's a very expensive market to serve, especially with chilled products, because the population is so spread out over a long, skinny country. So having effectively the whole of New Zealand's population in Sydney and then again in Melbourne, that is just phenomenally attractive. So we're forecast. Also, the plant-based cheese market is just starting to take off in Australia. So going there means that we're getting in at the beginning with an established brand and established and well-loved formulations into a growing market, and a market that's so much bigger than New Zealand.
Wonderful. So any questions, watchers, please chime in. We'd love to read your comments and questions. And now we have a question for Anna. What does it mean for people to become a shareholder, and what are their rights and responsibilities? And actually, Anna, you're going to answer this, aren't you? But then Alice has some specific information about Angel Food, investing in Angel Food.
Yeah, so I'll just start at a high level. And so when you pledge through an equity crowdfunding campaign on Pledge Me, if the company meets their goal by their deadline, that means the funds are processed and then they issue shares to the people that pledged. Commensurate with how much they pledged for, so how many shares they pledged for. And what that means is you own a piece of the company. So you become a shareholder in the company and you own shares in it. And that means in the future, if the company pays out dividends or if the company sells, you're a shareholder, so you own a piece of it. And you could get a financial return from the company at those points in time. There's no real responsibilities as a shareholder. You might be asked to vote on things if you've got voting shares, but really it's just that you own a piece of the company until the company sells or you sell your piece of the company if you can. It does sometimes extend beyond just the ownership piece, though, where we find that people that are shareholders in companies become advocates out there selling what the company is doing and really supporting them in different ways. So it can go beyond just that ownership piece. But yeah, basically what it means if you're a shareholder is you own a share in the company. But what specific rights you have sometimes are outlined further in the company's constitution. And so I'll hand over to Alice just to quickly explain what it means with this specific campaign and with Angel Food.
Yep, so all of our shares are voting shares. So anyone who owns shares in Angel Food has the opportunity to vote. Got to say the voting options are not very exciting. It's usually, do we accept the annual accounts? So we have, I do a monthly email update to our shareholders, just say any developments during the month, what we're working on, how things are going. And we do an annual report, and which goes out to all shareholders. And that includes all of our financial information for the previous financial year. And we have an annual general meeting, which is ideally in person. Of course, we've run a couple of them, I think 3 now, over Zoom because of COVID. But also it enabled us, people from all around the country, to join us. So there were benefits to not having it in person. But last year we held it in person here in Auckland, and our technical manager, Justin, brought along the sort of prototypes of the feta and the sour cream that at the stage they were at that point. And so people were able to taste them and give feedback and learn a bit about the development process, which was really cool.
Wow.
I think that covers it.
Yeah. Sounds great to me. So just say I were to invest, when could I hope to see a return on my investment, Alice? Anything to say about that?
Right. We haven't paid any dividends to shareholders at this stage, and we're actually quite unlikely to. We think it's much better to keep investing back into the business and grow the business. And the return for shareholders, including me, will come when we eventually sell the business. And we cannot put a time frame on that because life is uncertain. Yeah, that's probably as specific as I can be about that.
Yeah, I think the thing with just to jump in, the thing with equity crowdfunding is you can't promise anything. You never know what's going to happen in a business, and it is risky. But the potential for returns is there because you're investing in companies at an earlier stage than typically you might be able to in New Zealand. You know, it's quite different from buying shares in a listed company that's very, very large, but might not have the same trajectory to grow as big percentage wise because it is a later stage company. So it is, the whole thing with being able to invest at this stage is you're getting in earlier potentially, and there is potentially a greater opportunity for returns in the future.
Hey, guess what? We have a question.
Oh, yeah.
From Koro. Koro is asking, how many shareholders do you have? And he says he loves your investor information document. Alice.
No, thank you. We have 259 shareholders. So not all, but most of those, the vast majority came on board during our 2 previous equity crowdfunding campaigns.
And how many of them do you know, Alice? Like, do you know quite a few of them? Are they from your existing sort of network, or are there quite a few people in there that you don't know?
Oh, I don't know percentage-wise. I maybe know less than 20% of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, some of them I have met at, or I know them through emails, or I've met them at events. But some of them are a complete mystery to me.
Interesting. So just say I do want to invest. Maybe this is a question for you, Anna. How do I invest?
So you go to the campaign page, which you can find on the homepage of Pledge Me, or Charlotte will pop the link in, I think, in the chat so people can see. But you go to the campaign page, you click Pledge. If you aren't signed in yet, it'll get you to sign in and set up yourself up as an investor, which does mean we require a little bit more information because of the anti-money laundering legislation in New Zealand. We have to verify your identity. But once you've provided that information, which is your driver's license, date of birth, address, and things like that, you just pledge. So you say how much money you want to put in. It then calculates how many shares that will be. And then you say if you want to pay with a credit card or bank transfer. So it's pretty simple. You will be reminded a few times in that about the risk of investing through equity crowdfunding, and you'll get the investor statement and things like that to sign up to as well. So you know what it means to be an investor. But it's pretty simple. If you have trouble, though, just let us know. We have a paper pledging pack that we use every now and then for people who don't really like using technology, which we can happily send along to you. So yeah, really here to help.
Totally. Yep. And the link to the Angel Food Equity Campaign is in the comments here. And we've also just had a link put into the, investment document. Was it? It must be straight through the investor information document that Jackie's just put in.
Awesome.
I think. So unless anyone else has any other questions or anything else I'd like to say, I think we're going to start wrapping it up today. Thank you so much for being with us today, Alice, and answering all these questions.
Good to talk to you.
Yeah, in the Auckland Arts Museum, Arts Gallery.
Auckland Art Gallery.
Auckland Art Gallery. Love it, love it. And baby Bree did really well, Anna. She just cruised along.
She is currently in my arms. I am holding her now. But yes, she did. She did good for all but about 20 seconds there.
She did well. So this recording is going to be online from this point on. So if anyone who watches this after this live wants to ask any questions, feel free to, because we'll see them, so we can follow up on your questions. And we are going to sign off. Thanks everyone for tuning in today.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.